Hey 6-8, happy Friday, coming at you a little late today. My apologies for that. So let's dig right into it, and I'll try to keep it short for you today as a result of being behind. So, 1 John chapter 4, verse 1. Dear friends, do not believe everyone who claims to speak by the Spirit. You must test them to see if the Spirit they have comes from God, for there are many false prophets in the world. This is the way to find out if they have the Spirit of God. If a prophet acknowledges that Jesus Christ became a human being, that person has the Spirit of God. If a prophet does not acknowledge Jesus, that person is not from God. Such a person has the spirit of the Antichrist. You have heard that he's going to come into the world, and he is already here. But you belong to God, my dear children. You have already won your fight with these false prophets, because the Spirit who lives in you is greater than the Spirit who lives in the world. These people belong to this world, so they speak from the world's viewpoint, and the world listens to them. But we belong to God. That is why we know those who listen to us. If they don't belong to God, they do not listen to us. This is how we know if someone has the spirit of truth or the spirit of deception. I just want to talk about, I know today we're talking about how this passage applies to my world and how we live our lives in this world of deception. And I know I've talked a lot about this, and it's fresh on my mind, really fresh in my ears and in my thoughts today. So I'm going to hit it again. I think we could use another hit at it, another take at it, and that is testing the influences that we allow this world to have in our lives. And we're supposed to be in this world, not of the world. And I know you maybe have heard that many times. Maybe you haven't heard it very much. I don't know. But we're supposed to be in this world, not of this world. Those are Paul's words that he uses to talk about it. Jesus said that we were in the world and the world doesn't recognize us. He was in the world didn't recognize him. The same is true for us as his followers. We're in this world. We're not a part of this world. We need to be very cautious about the amount of influence that we allow this world to have. We're going through an election season right now. We need to be very cautious about the influence that we even allow these political candidates and these political debates and the political arguments that we see going on around us. We need to be very cautious about the amount of influence we allow these sources to have in our hearts and in our minds and in our lives. Because if we're not careful, we'll find ourselves being deceived. See, we're supposed to be in this world on mission, on a purpose, and we have the truth. We know the difference between truth and lies, between truth and error, and we know the difference. We're supposed to be going into the world with the truth, illuminating the darkness with the truth. But if we're not careful, we'll allow the world to kind of get into our thinking, into our psyche, into the way we make decisions, into the way we live our day-to-day lives, and we'll find ourselves being deceived by the world and being led astray. Now, I'm not saying I do this perfectly. I'm not saying that I'm a perfect ambassador for Christ in the world. I'm not saying that I haven't allowed the world to influence me. And I'm hoping and continuing and praying that God continues to show those to me and root me out of those habits and patterns that I've allowed the world to slip into my mind. But we need to be very careful. So when we're in our world, when we're out in the world, we have to be on our guard. Yes, we want to go into the darkness. We have to get into the mess if we're going to change the mess. That's the point of being a part of the redeeming quality, the redeeming nature of God's kingdom. But we cannot be changed, and we receive warnings and some of the other epistles about being careful not to be led astray when we are trying to lead people out of their darkness. So as we go into our world this weekend, as you go into your world this Friday and tomorrow, Saturday, go into your world, but be careful not to allow the thinking and the scheming of the world to lead you off track from what God has for you, because God's plans are higher than the plans of this life that we're living. God's ways are higher than these ways, and so we need to dig into His ways and let His truth saturate our minds and our hearts, and so that His thinking overcomes the deceitfulness of our own hearts and conquers the world's scheming in our hearts and our minds. So keep that in mind as you go into your world this weekend. We have to be in the world. We cannot seclude ourselves from the world, but we have to stay true to God's nature, to the truth of God's scripture while we're in this world. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Sunday morning as we kick off not only the next section of scripture, but we have baptisms on Sunday. It's a great time for us to celebrate the work God is doing in the hearts and lives of people connected to 6-8. And we'll kick off a whole new section for another week of daily coaching tips. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.